Hello, and welcome to this episode number 2 of the PsiloPod by PsiloHealth. This episode is brought to you by PsiloHealth, where we strive to empower individuals and communities through education, legislation, and integration of psilocybin-supported experiences. We promote sustainable, peer-led, community-centered healing initiatives with equitable access at the forefront. The PsiloPod elevates voices of individuals doing unique and valuable work in the entheogenic space. We strive to spotlight grassroots projects and groundbreaking work and broadcast leaders who are doing community-centered psychedelic healing. Listeners will hear personal stories of these leaders and what brought them to create new paradigms. You'll also hear deeply insightful chats on why people are serving the communities they are in and how we can all do a better job of promoting equitable access to consciousness-expanding activities and substances. I am really excited for today's conversation with Doug Finkelstein. Doug is the CEO or Chief Empathy Officer at Empathic.Health, which is a psychedelic integration-supported community connecting individuals with events and each other. Doug worked in the finance industry for 4 years until his first psilocybin magic mushroom journey and shockingly realized he no longer wanted to be in finance. So his life path led him to more plant medicine experiences and connections with what he considers lovely people who share this approach to life, and together they have formed Empathic.Health, which, disclaimer, I am a part of Empathic.Health and can right away say how absolutely special it is. So without further ado, my conversation with Doug. Episode 2 of the PsiloPod. Welcome, Doug. How's it going?
Thanks for having me, Hannah. It is going very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm settling into winter here in Colorado and trying to figure out what that looks like. I think that's always kind of a abrupt transition for me, but that's how it's going for me.
Yeah, winter is a really important time to just relax a little bit, I think, and wind down the year and be able to re-energize for the upcoming year. So hopefully you're finding some time for that.
I agree. I would say that Coloradoans are a little extreme in the fact that like winter hits and everyone's like, let's go skiing. And it's like, aren't we supposed to be resting? But
There's always something to do in Colorado. You're either hiking or you're skiing.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm really excited to have you on today. I feel really honored that you would join and talk a little bit about Empathic.Health. And I'm hoping to hear a little bit about your story and have the listeners listen to that as well. So we'll see where the next hour takes us. So you're the Chief Empathy Officer at Empathic.Health. And I know a little bit about your background and how that all got started, but I think that for other people that haven't heard, who are maybe listening and in the community, there's always something in everybody's unique story that people can gravitate towards, whether they're doing psychedelics yet or not doing psychedelics yet. And I'm curious if you'd be open to sharing a little bit about you, your story, and how Empathic.Health got started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. And yeah, there was never any doubt I was going to be here. Anything PsiloHealth does, I want to be a part of. So very grateful for the invite. Yeah, my story starts when I was 13. I grew up in the suburbs of New York, and I started taking Propecia. It's this chronic hair loss medication. Everyone in my family is bald. I was like, oh, free hair, sign me up. I'll just take this pill. All my problems will be solved. No questions asked. And that was not the case. It led to some really bad physical, mental side effects. I was on it until I was 23, and it really didn't help with my self-confidence because it felt like it was the pill that was giving me any hair that I had, and it wasn't even mine. So I felt kind of like a fraud. And every time I looked in the mirror, I was looking at my hairline. I wasn't looking at my face or anything else. So really just all around not a good experience for someone going through their teen years and through college. And then I was working in finance in New York. And when I was 23, I was looking online and kind of finally convinced myself like I should look further into this because I know it's having some effects that are really just not good for me. And I found an online community of other people taking this, and they were sharing their horror stories of their experiences. And some of them resonated with me, and some of the worst ones didn't. But I knew every day I kept taking it, I was risking that eventually happening. So after reading that, I quit taking the Propecia, and a few months later, it's kind of out of my system. I started meditating. I think the first time I literally just lay down in my bed for 5 minutes, fell asleep. But it was a start. And that evolved into practice sitting up and 10, 15 minutes. And those two things, getting off that drug and the meditation, really opened me up to wanting to explore life and like actually looking at me in the mirror and wanting to do the things that I couldn't be bothered with the previous 10 years. So that was eating way healthier. Growing up, I ate like a child, like chicken fingers and pasta, and while delicious, not the most well-rounded diet. Traveling and showing up for relationships and being present and allowing my true energy, I like to call puppy dog energy, shine through. So all of this coming to fruition, 23, 24, 25. When I'm 25, psychedelics pique my interest enough that I start to actively want to have my first experience. And up until that point, I more or less had the opinion the government and media give, like, oh, it's for hippies at festivals, and you're going to jump out of a building if you even think about this stuff, and just absolute nonsense. I knew that, but I didn't know much, about the truths of it. So I did the due diligence that I could on the internet. And unfortunately, every resource looks like it was made by a 12-year-old in the 80s. It's all like super sketchy and dark webby, and all the forums are 10 plus years old. You don't know if the advice being given is from an experienced psychonaut or a 12-year-old that's trying to mess with you. So eventually found enough through my research to feel comfortable having my first experience. So went out into nature with a small group of friends that were similarly interested. And we brought what we thought was a trip sitter with us. It was just a sober friend that had never done psychedelics.
Nice.
Now I know that you, in a trip sitter, want someone that has experience with the medicine that you're utilizing. But with all of the due diligence I did, not once did I see anything about that qualification being a benefit for a trip sitter. Fortunately, that experience went really well. Coming out of it, I realized I no longer want to work in finance, a shocking revelation coming out of a psychedelic experience. So I ended up deciding to move across the country to Los Angeles and attended graduate school at UCLA. I got my MBA, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I thought, this reset would help point me in the right direction and kind of see what's out there. During that first year, it's a 2-year program. Everyone is kind of expected to go into banking, consulting, and big tech. And that all just sounded like a different name for finance. I knew I didn't want to do that, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. In the meantime, every 4 months is when I'm due for my mental health reset, and I will go out into nature, have a similar experience to the first one, and reconnect with nature myself, get that orientation, that true mental health reset. And I realized after 8 or 9 of these experiences that I was always looking forward to the next one. I was always eager to check up with people and see, how they were integrating their experience. So it wasn't just that day I did drugs in the desert, but it was that day I realized that I really want to put more energy into my artwork, or I really want to focus on repairing my relationship with my parents, or whatever it might be for each person. It was always super interesting to me to be a part of that journey and be a part of that day of realization, message, download. There are many words for it, but also to kind of be that accountability and support and be along for the journey with people. So it was on another journey of mine in August of 2020, going into my second year of school, where I had this realization, like, this is where my energy and passion is. Like, what if this, career I'm trying to find, what if it could be in this space in some way? So I started to think about what gaps that I could be well suited for, that I saw that I thought needed to be filled. And I realized that every website looks like it's insanely outdated. I couldn't find what a trip sitter was, even though I'm I like to think I'm relatively tech savvy. There was no place to, catch up with people going on this journey with me and have these conversations and make this more a part of my life and have it more front and center. And it would be really cool if that place existed. So over the next year of school, my second year, I took some virtual community building courses. I went to all of the psychedelic conferences, really got kind of the lay of the land of both of those areas. And in June of 2021, we launched the community a couple of days after my graduation. In hindsight, should have taken a little vacation to kind of reset, get that, refocused transition of life, but was too eager, and obviously thankful that we did start it. And yeah, since then, we've really just been growing one member at a time. Our main focus is creating that space where anyone on any end of the spectrum, from never done a psychedelic to have been experimenting for 50 plus years with everything under the sun, can come together and share their experience, their perspective, resources that they've seen accumulated, like their knowledge, their opinions, and have a place where everyone feels safe, a opportunity to be vulnerable, that there's no stigma, there's no negativity, trolling, judgment, spam, any of that. To make sure that that is the container we make, we have one-on-one application calls with all of our new members, make sure that there's a good fit, they understand what our community is about. We onboard our new members in cohorts so they can meet other new members, get caught up to speed, learn how to use our platform, learn about all of the events and opportunities we have. And ever since that first day, we've really just been growing with the community, finding out what we as a group want more of and making more of those things happen, and providing opportunities for people to connect and make new friendships and learn from the journeys and experiences of others to bring into their own life and their own paths.
I love that. And I love the empathic community. It really is a safe container. And I can relate in that when I started looking up psychedelic things, man, you can go down a rabbit hole. You're like, I'm going to end up on some black market site. I don't know what I'm looking at. It's all relative. To your point, are people trolling? Are they being serious? Am I going to end up under a bridge? And all of that, you just don't know where the credible sources are. And so for me personally, the empathic community has been a huge support. And I want to hear from you, because this is probably actually a real question that some listeners might have and be like, wait, no, how actually do I do that? How do people find a trip sitter?
Yeah, that's a great question. My advice for that is it is still federally illegal. And in most states, some have decriminalized, but that's still illegal. The best answer I always have is to look toward your network. So your family, your friends, people that they know that they trust. Go to people that you trust and work with them to find people that they trust. And by the transitive property, hopefully you trust them too. And I recommend for any one you're trusting with keeping that space for you, to meet with them without any substances involved at least once, to make sure that you have that vibe check. And that's exactly what we do with our application calls. It's that just initial screener to, get that gut feeling like this is someone I trust to be able to hold the space for me. Or, if there's any red flag or hesitation, then that's your body telling you that maybe it's not a good fit. And there's a lot that you can do to kind of do that vetting. If someone is a psychedelic peer supporter program graduate through PsiloHealth, then that, they're serious about this. They've put in time and energy to learn more about this thing that they're offering to do. So you can look for certifications, you can look for testimonials, you can see, really just a holistic due diligence of who is this person that is willing to hold this space, and is it a good fit with me personally, where I'm at and what I'm looking for to be able to move forward. And if all of that is a fuck yes, then you might have a good fit. If it's not in any way, then it's worth exploring why you're feeling that way. And there's a very good chance that that's just not your person.
Absolutely. If your gut is not saying fuck yes, don't do it. That's always trust your gut in situations like this. That's what I tell people.
I just want to add, if you're like, well, that's great, but I don't have friends or family to, explore this network with, I think that is one of our biggest strong suits. It's one of the reasons we started, is we are that friends and family that are getting together. We have our platform, we have our safe container where you can come in, and even if you don't know anyone in the community, you can start to attend events and meet people and make connections and form those relationships and develop that trust with members of our community that then become members of your community and your network and your friends and family. So just because you don't have those connections now, like, they are certainly out there. We know the people in our community would love to meet you, you and myself included. So yeah, just know that there are opportunities to develop that network and set you on the path toward finding whatever might be right for you, whether it's a trip sitter or a clinical trial or a retreat outside of the US or a combination of these things. Now, it's an opportunity to talk with other people on that same path and explore what is right for you and really like get to your true passion and calling for whatever your next steps are.
I love that. There's really nothing better than a curated community that can be anything you want it to be, right? Like, from being in the empathic community, there's different pathways that people can select. Like, I want to follow this music thread. I want to follow like something about a microdosing community, or even like the Denver Boulder chapter. There's literally a path for everything. And I think I really appreciate that.
My favorite part, honestly, is just there's so much, and you can decide what is speaking out to you. If it's poetry night, if it's family dinner where we play some music together and watch a movie, if it's posting about your most recent journey and what you're going through, attending integration circle, sharing some of your poetry or commenting on someone else's, it's just a place that you can fully be yourself and kind of not have to worry about the bots, the spam, the targeted ads, any of that stuff that comes with virtually connecting and communicating with other people.
Yeah, and you don't have to spend the money to go and travel to psychedelic conferences if that's not your jam. I know that the MAPS conference is quite expensive for those who maybe can't volunteer. So I think that this is a good way to kind of get the best of all of those worlds together, because those people in the community are going to those events and then they're coming back and they're sharing their takeaways. So
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
A great way to stay in touch. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many conferences. They're all ridiculously expensive. There's no need to go to them all. Yeah, this is a
Definitely
great
not.
opportunity to make those connections and save a lot of hassle.
Yeah. One thing that you guys do in the empathic community is host integration circles. So a lot of these psychedelic companies, communities, startups, including PsiloHealth, host integration circles. And I've always been really intrigued by integration from the moment I started on this more medicinal psychedelic path rather than the recreational path, because I didn't know it was a component of it. I'm curious, from your point of view, how do you view integration and what makes successful integration of a psychedelic experience?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I wish it was just like, here's the answer, and then we could all go do it and
That'd be
have.
great.
I will say that it's often referred to as like doing the work. Someone pointed out to me that like work has some negative connotations with it, and I recently read somewhere it was Jonathan Schechter, one of our breathwork facilitators, Blue Magic Alchemy. In his newsletter, he called it like the practice. And I thought that was way better because practice, if you're playing a sport or an instrument, like you practice to get better because you just have a passion for the thing you're doing. And I think that's a much more appropriate word because we are all clearly passionate about it. Like you kind of have to be to go sit and purge for 6 hours at a time on a mat in the middle of the jungle. So yeah, I really view integration as a commitment to wanting to be a better you and giving yourself the resources to do that. And often that's just commitment, whether it's time, monetary, spiritually, whatever it might be. So attending integration circles, I couldn't tell you how many times I've gone and like, I don't have anything to share about my most recent journey or an upcoming one, but someone says something about their own experience. I'm like, oh shit, this is like exactly what I've been working on. And like that, and then I reach out to them after the circle and we connect further on it. And, that turns into us having weekly conversations or developing a workshop on the topic. Like imposter syndrome is one of those that we're developing a workshop on for the community now because it came out of an integration circle that a couple of us realized that it's something we battle. So that's all integration, I think, is like, I'm probably going to learn something from this workshop that wouldn't have come if I didn't give the time commitment to show up for that circle, even though I had no specific thing to talk about. So I think it really comes back to just the commitment to yourself to try to be the best you and work toward that, but just trying to improve bit by bit. And I think the universe will kind of, in hilarious, mysterious ways, provide, the what you are looking for, whether it's years down the line or from some random connection, from some random event, from some random podcast you listen to, who knows. But yeah, that it's really that like commitment that the universe rewards, and the rewards may not be obvious or what you expected or seem like rewards, but I trust in the plants and nature and our source to be looking out for us when it comes to this.
I love that. I think something that came up for me as you were talking is it's amazing how much we can go to the integration circles and sometimes we're not sure what to share, but it is through other people that it starts to click. And that wasn't making any sense to me when I first started going to integration circles. I'm like, how can everyone have such similar experiences? And then it kind of started to make more sense. And what I came to was the work isn't only my own, and we really have to learn and grow through other people. We heal through other people. This experience is truly communal. And it was kind of the universe saying like, haha, you cannot do this alone. And I'm showing you why. And I think that was just really beautiful to start to realize. And I'm like, okay, so no matter how much I journal by myself or read by myself, the full integration isn't going to come into the picture until I bring all these other people in. And that's where I think the real work started to begin, because at that point, you are trusting other people with your experience, your emotions, and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, this is what it's about. All right.
Yeah. And that's honestly often the hardest step, is just trusting and being able to be vulnerable to share that. And I think I'm always surprised when I do get to that point where I can be really, really vulnerable. My mind has convinced me that, everyone's going to be like, oh, like that's weird. Like that shouldn't, it's like, I'm going to get negative feedback. And I always get incredible love and support. And I know exactly what you're going through. You should talk to this person. They had the same experience. And it's always been like such positive feedback on being able to get to that place. And then it's still challenging the next time that I try to get there. But like, that's where, if I look back, the most significant, like, damn, I'm really just doing well for myself moments have come from is when you're able to get to that point. And that's really what we're trying to foster in Empathic, is a place where everyone that's in it feels comfortable to get to that point. And it's not every day, like you're going to exhaust yourself if it's every day. But when you need it, you have the support of, and the love and the perspective and everything of everyone else in the community. And then the next day you can provide that for whoever needs it that day. Yeah. So it's like one for all and all for one. Like it's really it's the communal entity support that is able to provide for each individual.
And integration is even assuming that, people that are listening have done any kind of psychedelic experience. I remember when somebody came to me and they had not ingested any kind of entheogen or plant medicine. And they were like, Hannah, how do you prepare for something like this? And I'm like, wow, I don't think I'm even prepared to answer that question, because that's kind of a loaded one. Like I have the basic things that I do based on what somebody told me. And I was like, where would I even get a comprehensive list of something I can really tell somebody? And I was like, oh, the empathic community. I'll just put it out there and see how other people do it. And I mean, people were all over that. You know what I mean? I received such support. I received messages on the side that was like, wanted more clarification as to what I was asking. I mean, people just really wanted to be helpful. And I was like, this is amazing. I learned something. And then I feel like I could really support somebody that was considering something that could potentially be life-changing.
Those are always my favorite posts. And I'm so happy you made it. Because I'm just like, look at my list, like, oh, here we go. Like, yes. What are people going to say? And then you'll get everything from like here's the playlist I use. Like, oh, that's a good playlist. Like, I
Mhm.
always recommend having a second blanket just in case. Like, oh, I never thought of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's everyone has their own unique things they just picked up from their own experiences,
Yeah.
and it can save everyone reading it a lot of hassle down the road just by keeping that having that list. So in the back of your mind, you remember before your next journey, like, oh yeah, there was that one post that I really liked about the second blanket, and then you grab it, and then what do you know? Like you got really cold, and that blanket's right there for you. So that's the universe just being like, yeah, like this is how it found you. Yeah, that was an awesome post, and the feedback was phenomenal. It was so cool to hear everyone's different perspective on that.
Things as little as like, maybe put some pineapple in the fridge and grab it when you're done with your journey. And you don't think about stuff and then you do it and you're like, the universe got my back. This
This is the
pineapple is
greatest pineapple I've ever eaten.
greatest pineapple I've ever eaten. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you talked about imposter syndrome, which I know a bit about. I've read this book one time called How Women Rise, and it talks a lot about imposter syndrome. I also know you've done some work with IFS or internal family systems. What other practices have you cultivated because of psychedelic experiences and integration?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot. The two that I'll really point out as having the biggest impact and being the most prominent right now, because I think it's important to add, it's very easy to get flustered at not just having like this one-stop shop list of like, these are all the things you do and integration goes perfectly.
Mhm.
Like the things I do now are not the things I did a year ago. They're not the things I did 3 months ago. It's all like a never-ending fine-tunement. That includes microdosing, that includes breath work, meditation. Like that's one I've been lacking on a lot as of late that I want to get back to. And it just hasn't built its way back into my routine at this moment. And I hope it does soon, but that's just kind of the way it's gone. So a few others before I jump into those main two. Yoga every night before I go to sleep has been a tremendous help. Exercise in the morning to start my day off. Gotten from the community on one of those posts about like, what do you do? Greg mentioned a glass of water with lemon and salt in the morning. And now I do that every morning and it just gets me ready to go. Can't imagine not doing that anymore. So like that was just a cool tip and trick that I picked up in the community. The two big ones are breath work. So our friends over at Othership have a app that is like a headspace, but for breath work, where you can pick any type of breath work from a couple minutes to an hour for sleep, for energy, for transformation, for more of a psychedelic experience. That's an absolute game changer for me. I do it pretty much every day, not every, but very, very often. We start off a lot of our empathic events with a 3-minute one just to kind of ground and get everyone present in the space and on the same wavelength. So that's just had like very profound impact on my life. And I love everything that they're up to in Toronto at Othership. And then the second big thing is what I call therapy night, which is on Friday nights. Usually after I do my IFS work, I will wind down for the week, turn off all my electronics, all of that, light some candles, some Palo Santo. I will then have some cannabis, and that's like the one time a week that I do that. And then I'll have a much deeper dive breath work, again, using Othership, where I'll go in for 45 minutes to an hour and a half on a mat with blindfold, headphones. And that's every time just a transformative experience for me. And it honestly feels like on the mat in Maloka doing ayahuasca again. It absolutely brings me back there. It really just like is that buffer between my week and my weekend, and it provides for me in so many ways. I always end up coming out of it with messages for people and myself, and reprioritize and organize. So it's always been a great experience. And recently, through Corey Firth, he recommended a Shakti mat to me, which is one of those mats that has spikes on it.
Yes. Yes.
And I've now incorporated that the last 3 weeks into my therapy nights. And that's brought it to a whole new level of an experience. And yeah, it's a never ending tinkering and fine tunement. And that's kind of the fun of it. It can also be part of the brutality of it if it becomes overwhelming and it's like, oh, I've got to go meditate, probably means like that it might be time to consider other options and ways that you can, give yourself
Mhm.
that commitment that I talked about and that devotion to being the better you. It just might
Mhm.
not be meditation for you at that moment. So as long as this, you're trusting your gut and you're creating time for yourself to do the things we all know are beneficial, eating healthy, physical activity, stretching, yoga, like all these things, doing your best effort to have that practice is, I think, what will, at least for me, it's what makes me feel the best and as best as I can each day. And a lot of days I fuck up and don't do those
Mhm.
things. And then it's just like, tomorrow's a new day and I'll do what I can tomorrow.
I mean, same. Some days I'm like, I'm going to spend an hour in the morning meditating. And then I go into my meditation space and I sit there and I go, I don't want to freaking do this today. And I get up and I leave. And sometimes that's self care too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Heck yes to everything you said. Devotion to self, othership, amazing app. You're the one that got me interested in that app. I still use it probably at least 3 to 4 times a week. And then lemon water. It's the little things, but they make a difference. The vibration of lemon is high. The zinginess of the lemon, it is a good way to start your day.
Yeah.
And it's these little self-care moments I think that I also have taken from the integration process is it's just like really listening to what you need. One thing that I had to overcome is like what I thought an ideal integration process or day looked like. And sometimes it's like if your body needs a bath, take a bath. And lately my body's been wanting to move and I never saw myself as somebody that was doing ecstatic dance. But now I'm going to go try ecstatic dance in Denver and it's going to be weird.
Nice.
I'm just imagining it being very strange and I love dancing, but it's something that makes me nervous. But for some reason, I want to do it. And it's because in a lot of the integration circles, people are like, no, it's great. I'm like, guess I'll try it, you know? So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just feeling weird while doing it and doing it anyways. And then your body starts craving it.
Yeah, I love that you're doing that. It's been coming up for me a lot too lately. I haven't had the courage to find and go to one yet. That's really cool that you are, and I've heard fantastic things also. And I think that touches on something really important is the getting a little bit outside your comfort zone. I'm sure we all know, like last night, I spoke at an event and I do not like public speaking. But each time after I do any type of public speaking, I get that feeling of like, wow, like I pushed myself today. I did something that made me uncomfortable. And that's a really good feeling. I think we all know that feeling. So this is a perfect example of like the Shakti mat. The first time I laid down on it, that was really uncomfortable. But like now I love it. Ecstatic dance. First time you go, you might be like, that was kind of weird. But then second, third, fifth time, you're like, I can't imagine not doing this. The lemon water, the first time I had it, I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll do it a couple days. And now I can't imagine not doing it. And it's all these little things that like make up our life, right? Like it's just a bunch of tiny actions over the course of a day and week and month and year and lifetime. So being able to live intentionally and push ourselves a little bit and try new things and have these experiences are, I think, what's going to make us, look back at the end and be like, I'm happy with how I went about things here in this current lifetime.
Yeah, in this one on this earth before I perhaps get reincarnated. Who knows?
Oh, for sure.
You mentioned ayahuasca, and so Silo Health, focuses specifically on psilocybin. Empathic Health doesn't have a specific plant medicine where the focus is. What are you seeing as some of the common plant medicines people in the community are talking about? And then what are some plant medicines or even consciousness expanding modalities that are kind of up and coming that you're noticing?
Yeah. Yeah. Great topic. For what I think is good reason, we don't have a focus on anything because I've always seen the goal of the community as a resource for people to explore what might be right for them. And for us to really drill down on any one thing would not be biased, but would kind of support that being like a better choice over another. The most common tend to be psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, ketamine, and that's because of accessibility, their place in culture where things like ibogaine are less talked about, less accessible, not as big of a focus for most people. I would add ayahuasca to that list of common topics as well. So like what I love about the community is we have people that have experience with all of these things, and people that prefer more of one in their life than the other, for all of them. So whatever is piquing your interest, you can explore that rabbit hole further with other people that have that passion, or not, if it's something that just doesn't speak to you. So it's been really cool to just see that kind of diversity of topics, and yeah, the ability for anyone to go deep on whatever they might want to. Breathwork has probably been the one that most people don't know about. It's super easy to do. You literally just breathe. You're doing it right now, with a little more intention, and the effects can be phenomenal. Like, you can absolutely have psychedelic experiences. And if you have not done breathwork and you're listening to this, I totally expect you to be like, there's no way, that's not true. Because that's what I thought until I did it a little over a year ago for the first time. And it is absolutely true. And I highly recommend doing it. I personally view breathwork as a great introduction to altered states of consciousness and what a psychedelic experience is, because you have your foot on the gas, where if you are starting to get uncomfortable, you can slow down your breathing and really, feel into what that uncomfortability is at your own pace and with your own comfort. Where with psychedelics, sometimes you're a bit more along for the journey if you took a substance that is, working its magic on you. So for a variety of reasons, I find breathwork to just be fantastic. You can do it in your living room. There's apps like Othership that can guide you. You can get started right away if you want to. You can be in control the entire time. You can get a feeling for what it's like. You can have that experience, and it's just good for you. Like, your body needs that oxygen. Most of us are not breathing as deeply as we should, myself certainly included. So I'd say that that's been really like the hottest topic, where in our new member onboarding for our cohorts, we have a breathwork session, and the feedback is always fantastic on what that's like for people, especially people that have never had an experience there. It's always like shock. I did not think this would work, to holy shit, that was amazing. I definitely want to do this more often. And that's always really cool to see.
Yeah. Breathwork is incredible. I remember being in Florida at the PsiloHealth retreat and being led through a breathwork session. And I had never had it to the point where it actually mimicked a psychedelic experience until that time. And I remember feeling like I had taken something, and I had to think, like, did I? And I was like, there's no way I did not. And my body was kind of cramping up from, I guess, the fluctuation in oxygen in my brain. And I walked away with just this amazing message of self-love. And after opening my eyes, even the colors in the room looked different. Everything felt a little wavy. And that's what really catapulted me into like, oh, this is what people were talking about. The first couple times I did it, I wouldn't say it didn't work, but I didn't achieve such a heightened state. And then once you get it, and you can't go back. And it's kind of like, okay, very cool. I don't need to plan, a bunch of logistics around a major journey. I can do this now in my own bed. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy you brought up the muscle cramps, tetany, as it's called,
tetany.
especially in the hands. And I think that really speaks to the value of due diligence and having people to learn from their perspectives, so that if you, heard this podcast and jumped right in and just downloaded Othership and started a 70-minute one, there's a really good chance that you would get those cramps, and you might be like, something is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. We've heard stories of people taking niacin in their microdosing stack and not knowing that niacin can cause red, blotchy skin and some feelings of heat, and rushing to the emergency room thinking they were having a reaction, and then learning on the way that this was a normal reaction to niacin, and it subsides within a short amount of time. So that can be traumatizing if you're not prepared. So I'm happy that it came up in this conversation, in case anyone was going to download Othership, which I do recommend, but be aware of tetany and tight jaw, and there are other things. So this is one of those things. Due diligence. If you are in Empathic and listening, ask a question to the community, like, what should I know in my first preparing for my first breath work, or whatever else you're doing. If you're not, join the community or Google it and check out Reddit. And there are good resources out there that can at least get you started on that due diligence path.
Yeah. I mean, even taking functional mushrooms, like drinking mud water during the day or whatever blend we put into our smoothies that have functional mushrooms in them, like reishi, turkey tail, cordyceps, all the things. One time somebody in the community was like, lion's mane actually gives me a huge headache. And I was like, my mind exploded because I was like, I've been getting headaches and it never occurred to me that it was lion's mane. And so I kind of started getting the powders on my own, putting one powder in, and sure enough, it was lion's mane. So it's little things like that that I think you can lean on the community for. And also just that there's synchronicities that line up. There's things that people are doing in the community that you're doing that you might not be thinking twice about, but someone else is thinking twice about it.
Oh, that's been so cool. That's been my hands down favorite part of Empathic, is just getting this many people together that are all on the same wavelength of like what we're doing here has led to so many experiences where it's like, it's crazy you mentioned that. I was just talking with Melissa and this exact topic came up, and there's a running joke coming out of one of our most recent retreat where we just go, that's how it works, as like a nod to the universe, just connecting those things and providing those serendipitous moments. It's become like all too common how often these uncommon things happen that, we have that running joke now. But yeah, it's really cool to see what happens when you surround yourself with people and become one of those people that are just focused on this practice.
I got chills when you were talking. It kind of reminds me of the universe just kind of side smiling, looking at you out of the corner of its eye and winking, like it knows. Like, yeah,
Right.
this is what it's about.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you go to obviously some networking events, some conferences. What do you wish more people in the psychedelic space community, it can be empathic or just in general, what do you wish more people were talking about?
The picks and shovels of the space. It seems like every venture capital dollar investment news on psychedelics is either around the political side of sending psychedelics through the, quite honestly, fucking terrible medical system that we have now, where everything is going to be profit for big pharma and, take 2 pills of this and it's got to be doctor in a white lab coat. And the second part being all of the money is going to companies that are doing dose day administration. So it's making some, mushroom that's slightly different than a typical mushroom so that they can patent it and profit off of it, when I feel like nature did a pretty good job with the stuff growing in our backyards. That we are prohibiting access because, and I say we, I mean the government, because profit is being considered over people. So when it comes to considering people, I think preparation and integration are the 2 biggest parts. So Oregon, Colorado, both very close to having actual sessions happen legally. And from everything I hear, am unsure on whether the prep and integration has been adequate, because just in my channels, I've heard people saying, oh yeah, I heard about that past law. Like, I have very bad depression. I'm interested. Like, do I just go take mushrooms? Like, how does this work? And there's really no thought being, as far as I can tell, there's minimal thought being put into everything that goes around the actual dose day. So the people are going to leave the therapist office, clinic, retreat, whatever, after their week-long experience, and then they're just back at home. And none of these companies that are doing administration have focus on what happens then. So you're kind of just leaving people, you're showing them God, and then you're like, all right, see ya. And it's like, well, now what do I do? And as he talks about it, it's even as simple as just knowing, like, oh, there are other people that are like me, like trying to figure this out and going through it. That's so valuable. And I just really am not seeing much, if any, intention put into the picks and shovels of the space, where it's, the the gold rush, everyone's after the gold, but someone needs to provide the equipment and the genes that people are going to wear when they're trying to mine that gold. So it'd be great to see a more holistic consideration for the medicines, and not just focus on the medicines themselves, but work like the medicines do and provide like a more longer term, person by person, soul based healing approach.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of what I heard at the Emergence gathering in Denver, is like, but what about the before and what about the after? Because it's one thing to get people the medicine. Preparation and your mindset going into it largely dictates a lot of the time what you get out of the experience. And so it's like, how are we talking about that, and what's the support we're giving people afterwards? And if the support we're giving people afterwards is integration sessions that still cost a ton of money for people, then I think we're kind of missing the point. And sometimes I wonder, based on what I heard, how much are people realizing that integration is helpfully done within a community setting, even if the experience itself wasn't? So when I hear all these politicians and all these news articles come out talking exactly about what you're talking about, what can people listening, or what can we do to get past that into kind of what you're outlining with the support before and after?
Yeah, that's a tough question, but an important one. I would say to personally get involved in what speaks to you. If that is getting involved with organizations pushing for legislation, then I think that's an awesome opportunity. If it's joining a community like Empathic, just to have that presence and be someone that your neighbor can lean on, that's an awesome opportunity. If it's reaching out to nonprofits to help organize, like with Fireside, who provided their peer support hotline that people can call, volunteering there, other opportunities to volunteer, great opportunities. I think it comes down to figuring out what you're passionate about and then exploring the ways to get involved there. And if you're having trouble with that last step, I think like you and I are great resources to reach out to, because
Yes,
we kind of
always.
work in this space. Like, shoot us a message and I can provide my email. Reach out to your network, like I mentioned earlier, and say, hey, I'm really interested in getting involved in this way. Like, who can I talk to? What organizations can I volunteer with, or apply to work for, or whatever it might be. And then you can just have this be more a part of your life and kind of let the universe throw in its winks throughout the journey from there.
Throw in the winks. I love that. It's true. It's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of circling back a little bit, not necessarily switching gears, because I think it ties in. I'm awfully curious. When you mentioned that you had an experience that made you not want to be in finance, right? We're kind of talking about capital and money here and the way that psychedelics are integrating themselves into society right now. What about that experience made you not want to be in finance?
Yeah, no one really ever asked me that. My job was a equity trader. So I would sit at a computer and I would push buttons on my keyboard that would buy or sell stocks, and that would make or lose money. And that is all I did every day. So my thought process during my experience was, what the fuck am I doing that is contributing to the earth in any way that, whether we like it or not, money is kind of, it dictates everything in society, from success to, what you get to do with your time, which is truly our most valuable resource, to everything. So like, why is that being determined based on whether I hit keyboards well on this computer or not? Like, the earth gives zero shits about what buttons I'm hitting at what time and whether that matters. So I realized that, like, yes, I could potentially make a lot of money doing this, but that's not what my goals are. Like, I would not feel satisfied regardless of how much I made. That I don't think that's why I'm here. So it was that realization that, succeeding in that role is making more money for your bosses and for yourself, and getting to hit more keys on the keyboard. There's no end game that results in some, crazy benefit to society or to the planet. And my personal philosophy is I believe heavily in reincarnation. I think that each life we're trying to leave it better for those who will come after us, because those people are just us in different bodies. And I would very much like to live in the paradise oasis of Hawaii everywhere, rather than like a Mad Max hellscape of a planet in my in my upcoming lives. So I am always trying to work toward that. And yeah, hitting the keys on the keyboard wasn't moving the needle in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't think that hitting keys on keyboards would move the needle in my eyes either. I love what you said about we want to leave the earth better for the people after us, which might just be us in different forms. Wow.
Yeah, I would hope that one, people don't just write that off, because who are any of us to really know, what happens. But let's just consider that maybe that is true. Would we act differently toward ourselves and toward each other and toward the planet? And if those if that does get us to act a certain way toward each other and ourselves and the planet, and that leads to a healthier self and community and planet, then why not have that philosophy, whether it's true or not?
I agree. I think, sometimes for better or for worse, people can think like, well, why leave it better for other people that I don't even know, right? There's 7 billion something people I don't know and won't know in the future. And while I don't totally agree with that, because I think we're all humans having a human experience and that should be enough to care, the way that I look at it is like, the earth has given me everything. Like all the sustenance I've ever eaten has come from this earth. So at minimum, I need to care about the earth, which is going to be here when I die. And I was really sitting the other day thinking about whether or not I'm leaving the planet a better place. I think I'm leaving humans better in the way that I can connect with people and I feel good about the help I can bring to the human population. But when it comes down to the actual earth, I don't know right now if I'm leaving it better than it was when I got here because of Amazon and recycling and all the things. And that's something that I think going into next year, I really want to change around, because it's like sometimes it's not just about the people, it's about actually Mama Pacha and everything she's given me. And man, reducing our footprint to the point where we're leaving it better than we found it, it's hard.
It is hard. And I'll just throw it out there. Obviously, take it or leave it, and if it suits you, then great. But I personally like to frame it as, am I doing better than past me with it? So like, yeah, I might not be carbon zero right now and leaving zero footprint, but compared to where I was at last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like I'm way more considerate about the impact I'm having, and doing way more with my resources to help others, to empower them to do more with their resources and be more intentional. So I like to find, and I do believe that the progress is more of the end result than the end result is, if that makes sense.
I love that. That it's a good way and it's a good reminder to be gentle on ourselves and to say that, yeah, any progress shouldn't like negate no progress. Just because we don't see a huge amount of progress doesn't mean we should not try to make any progress.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What you were sharing, it makes me think of one of my favorite quotes, which is, many people think that they are a drop in the ocean, but few realize that they are the ocean in a drop. I'll just let that one sit. And I love it.
Are we talking about the universe being the ocean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my interpretation being that, like, and religion talks about this a lot too. Like, we all have, piece of God in all of us. It's that same thinking that we all come from this source. We are all of the same being, whatever you prefer to think of it as. So when you see, a unhoused person on the street, and if you can realize like, oh, like we are the same, we come from the same place. Next life, that might be me, and I would do anything to have the person looking at me be friendly and compassionate. It can change your way of approaching life. And again, who knows if it's true or not, but if it makes you a more compassionate and empathetic person, then why not believe it?
Yeah, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain in that moment.
Right.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that.
I'm glad you enjoyed.
I did. So what's next for Empathic Health? And as we wrap, how can people get involved in the community if they want to?
Yes, great question. So a couple of things I'm really excited about. Later this month, we're going to be introducing on-request integration and preparation circles. So to date, we've had them just at set times that we've kind of picked and hoped would work for people. Now we have the opportunity for people to let us know when they have ceremony, and in advance let us know a date and time that works for them for a preparation and integration circle. And then we can put that in the calendar, invite the rest of the community. And we do limit our circles at 8 people so that everyone gets a chance to be as involved as they would like, but to open it up to the rest of the group. And you can hear from other people's experiences based on what medicine that you're going to be having your experience with. You can hear specific stories to that, or you can opt for a more general room. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that really soon and to have that functionality in our community. We're also working on a investment donation page on our website for anyone that supports our mission and wants to help out. We're fully self-funded. We're never going to take any venture capital money, any investors. It's my personal belief that if you have investors, you're actually legally obligated to make them more money or they can sue you. And if that's your number one priority, the community has to be second. And I would never join a community where I am the second priority. So for that reason, we're remaining fully self-funded, and we take donations from members of the community. And we want to open that up for anyone that likes what we're doing and wants to help us, because our budget is very lean and we're doing everything we can with what we have, but it's always a obstacle to get over. So excited to have that functionality and open up our energy waves to anyone that may be so generous to help out with that. And that will be on our website, Empathic.Health, along with a opportunity to join the community if you are interested. So you can learn a bit more about what we do and our values and check out some pictures from some of our events. And if you decide you want to check it out further, you can sign up for an application call. So our next new member cohort is in March. So you can sign up for a call in February where you'll have 20 minutes with a community member, and you just get to meet them and learn more about the community, ask any questions you have, do a general vibe check, see if it's something you want to continue with. And assuming both parties are very excited and eager to continue, you will join our next cohort, which starts in March. And then you get onboarded, you get a mentor from the community that can point you in the right direction for people to connect with, events to attend, and groups to join, and introduce you to your local chapter champion for in-person meetups and all fun things like that. And then from there, you are in the community. So the next step would be to check out our website and sign up for a call if you want to peruse further.
A vibe check.
Yes, a vibe check.
I love that. Instead of interviews, we need to call them vibe checks. Well, I get high vibrations from everyone in the community. I highly recommend it to anyone considering joining. It's amazing. We will link that in the bottom of the podcast, along with, we mentioned some other great resources. What did we mention? Fireside Project, Blue Magic Alchemies, PsiloHealth, psilocybin peer supporter, lemon water. I'm not going to link a recipe to that, but try it. Heat up some water, put some lemon in there. Shakti mat. Mm-hmm.
I do want to include my emails, dougf@empathic.health. I mentioned earlier that I would throw that in. So if anyone, I forget what the exact subject was, but reach out for whatever reason you want. And would love to chat.
Cool. Doug, anything else on your mind?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thanks for joining. This was awesome. Yeah. I love connecting with you.
That was awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up episode number 2, and until next time.